Today is Collins versus Faith School District, and it's on page 797 in your textbook if you'd like to follow along. But this case was decided by the Supreme Court of South Dakota in 1998. So basically what happened in April of 1995, there was a teacher, Mr. Collins. First name was Richard, and Richard Collins conducted he was terminated after he held a question and answer session with a bunch of 4th, 5th, and 6th grade boys after they had watched the sex education video. So basically what happens, he was terminated, and he was terminated for incompetency, is the reason that they used. Basically, here's what happened. The school district at the time was a small school district, and they contracted with a local nurse to come in and give the sex education talk. So she showed a video and then asked if there were any questions regarding the video. None of the boys responded that there were any questions. And then in the past 15 years, then afterwards the boys would go to Mr. Collins, and it was the previous nurse had asked him to do it, so he thought that he was technically doing the same thing that he had been done for the last 15 years as he had been asked by the nurse. But they would go to him because they felt more comfortable with him because he was a male figure, and they would ask him questions. One of the boys asked him, he said that he had heard that two men could have sex and asked how that was possible. The issue arises when Collins proceeded his explanation with the disclaimers that this type of conduct is frowned upon, that most people do not believe in it, and the boys would find it gross. Collins then described oral and anal sexual intercourse in explicit language. The next day, some of the parents complained that the principal heard about it. Mr. Collins was called into the principal's office. The superintendent went up to the superintendent, and Mr. Collins was handed a letter saying that his contract was no longer renewed, that he had been fired for incompetence. As he went through the appeals process, there really wasn't any evidence that he was incompetent, just that he had messed up this one time, if you will. In the end, then the case was overturned, and Mr. Collins was awarded his employment again, and he was also, they determined an appropriate amount of back pay for the 3 years from the time this event occurred until this happened. Now, some of the issues that arose here is obviously Mr. Collins was probably not qualified to do this, but he had been doing it. Basically, where they fired him for incompetence, but they could not show in any way, shape, or form that Mr. Collins was incompetent. They did talk about the possibility that he was, I'll read this section out. It says, on the case notes side, it says, numerous court decisions have made it clear that incompetence cannot be concluded from a single incident, but rather must arise from a course of conduct or a series of incidents. Yet it is clear that incompetence hinges not on the number of incidents, but rather on whether a single incident or series of incidences was of such magnitude as to render a determination of unfitness to perform the duties of the job. So basically, Mr. Collins did not deserve to get fired. Mr. Collins agreed that it was a mistake that he explained both oral and anal sex so explicitly, but it was not him being incompetent in his duties, and so he was reinstated, and that was the test that came from it, was the section about regarding the incompetence and what incompetence actually was.